after everything that happened to my mom happened, I found myself consuming books about criminal justice, books written by people who had committed violent acts, books written by people who had survived violent acts. I was just trying to understand how everything happened. And I think the narrative that's out there for victims is if you can forgive the person who did the violent act, you're sort of held up. And it's heroic, and it was certainly something that I wanted to achieve myself. And I think I went into making the radio pieces I made thinking that that might happen. I think in retrospect, what I realized is that what was really crushed in me the most with what happened to my mom was my hope and my belief in fellow human beings. And when I got through making these pieces, it was making my own small truth and reconciliation, in that I got to meet all the people that I felt had gone through this, who I felt had been impacted by it. I got to talk to my mother in detail about what happened that night, talk to my brother, talk to the politicians, talk to McFadden's sister, and then to have the opportunity, because at the end of the first piece of radio I made, I came to realize that it wasn't that I didn't believe in second chances. It was that my words at the Senate Judiciary hearing had conflated all juvenile lifers with Reginald McFadden, and that wasn't fair. That all juvenile lifers were not Reginald McFadden, that people do deserve second chances. And when the Supreme Court rulings came down and thousands of people who had been serving life sentences since they were children were going to be given a second chance, I thought, do I really believe this? If this is gonna happen, do I believe it? And to have the opportunity for a year to talk to this man, hours, we talked for 35 hours in total, at least once a week, and to, over the phone, yeah, every 15 minutes getting cut off, and Kempis was calling back. I was stuffed in a closet in my house, and Kempis was at a bank of phones at Greater Prison, and I don't think we left anything out. I mean, we talked about everything, and I mean, our conversation restored my hope. It honestly did. And people ask me all the time, and they tell me you need to forgive McFadden. I don't forgive McFadden. I don't. When I see my mother still and how impacted she is, I can't forgive him. I have compassion for him. I see the systems that weighed on him. I don't think they're right. I don't think they're fair. I think they need to change. But I do believe in second chances, and I do feel hope again. And I think Kempis is largely due to our conversations.
So I think it was having Sam come to Greater Fort Prison and play her piece and hear, she played it for a population of men, an auditorium. The auditorium was packed that night. And to hear the conversation that took place afterwards, and all the people that were condemned to life without parole, which we call in Pennsylvania now increasingly death by incarceration. Because our life without parole in Pennsylvania, it's not when you do 20, 25 years, 30 years, and then you see the parole board. There is nothing. You're sent to prison. The only how you're coming out of it is if you escape, you overturn your case miraculously through the appellate process, or you come out zipped up in a bag with a tag on your toe. Those are the only three ways. You're sent to prison to die. So we call it death by incarceration, right? And so to hear those individuals that were self-sentenced stand up and address Sam the way they did, with the kind of remorse, even though they were not directly responsible for what happened to your mother, and to hear them disavow and fight so hard with their words to separate themselves and distance themselves from the likes of Reginald McFadden. Because when this case happened, everybody saw the possibility of not just of life without parole eligibility for people sentenced to life without parole go down the drain, but we saw everything that we were fighting for to change public perception about us go down the drain too. You know what I'm saying? And we fight every day, to change public perception. And this is probably the grace and the blessing of the Miller versus Alabama and Montgomery rulings. Allowing us to come out, because every day that we're out here doing what we're doing, we obliterate the myth that somehow people that have committed even the ultimate trespass somehow pose a public safety issue, and we don't make good neighbors, right? We obliterate that myth. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you heard when you came up here. We denounced what Reginald McFadden did, and then we would learn that he was a child lifer too. But there were circumstances that, he was not a good candidate for release. But the real context of your and my meeting, of her and my meeting, was going back to recognizing, the dynamics of the juvenile issue with hundreds of people who were associated with the loss of human life on the verge of release en masse. An unprecedented situation in this society. Because it wasn't one of those situations where you woke up one morning and you saw in the newspaper or TV that DNA information came down and exonerated an innocent person. For the most part, the U.S. Supreme Court said that this group of people is responsible for what they did, right? But because of the phase of development they were in, adolescent, they weren't a consideration for a wider latitude of mitigating factors. This society never had to wrestle with anything like this before, and it was hundreds of us on the verge of release. I was wrestling with how do we create a conversation that evolves it out of the win or loser conversation. It was an adversarial conversation about who won and who lost with those rulings. How do we evolve it out of that space into a space that could really take us to a place of healing? And so that's when I came up with Ubuntu Philadelphia, From Behind the Walls, you know what I'm saying, which was about creating a space where family members who've lost loved ones to murder, family members who've lost loved ones to prison, people who survived violence, as well as people who caused harm, calling in from prison or formerly incarcerated, coming together for an open conversation about healing. And Sam had showed her video, had showed her podcast or played her podcast at this Ubuntu Philadelphia. And then we would connect. And I got a lot of criticism from this piece from my comrades and brothers. Some of them said, I was looking for the radical Gandhi, not this Gandhi that was talking about remorse and so on and so forth with this person. And I had to make it clear to people, like, listen, man. Look, I've analyzed, if anything, I've analyzed. I've unpacked my life, right? I've been in prison 2 times as long as I was free. If anything I know is that first 15 years, I've turned over every page and read it multiple times, right? And I've looked for all kind of reasons and things to make sense out of why I could do something like that. My crime happened in 1987 at the advent of the crack cocaine era. You understand? I read Gary Webb's Dark Alliance. I read Robert Parry's Lost History, The Conscious Cocaine, The Press and Project Truth. I would urge sociologists to study the impact of the crack cocaine era on our young people, on our behavior, and all of that kind of stuff. I know that. But I'm having a conversation at this time with a woman whose mother just suffered what she suffered. I would not dare try to give some type of socio-economical context to my behavior, because it would come off as insensitive. I would leave that analysis to the sociologists and to other people. To them, coming from them, it's an explanation. Coming from me, it would sound like an excuse. And that's not something that I wanted to give in that time. And so this was a conversation not about what causes violence, but about violence itself and how do you heal after violence, right? And I'm so grateful that I was able to have this conversation with Sam, because it transformed me. And it made me realize the kind of sensitivity that's required from those of us that's in the movement, because a lot of times it seems to people who've lost loved ones to violence that we are insensitive, that all we want to do is get our loved ones out of prison, but we don't care about the loved ones that they lost to violence, that their loved ones have. And that's the furthest thing from the truth.